Hello, my name is Frank Christensen and I'm the coordinator of officials for IFAF Europe. In today's training tape, we're looking at unsportsmanlike conduct on the sideline, or rather on the bench in the team area. So we'll look at some video to see what can they do on the sideline, how can they behave, and specifically, how can they not behave. But before we get to the game film, let's have a look to see what the rulebook and the MOFO have to say on this topic. In the rulebook, we go to 921B, where number 1 says, during the game, coaches, squad members, and authorized attendants in the team area shall not be on the field of play or outside the 25-yard lines to protest an officiating decision or to communicate with players or officials without permission from the referee. Number 4 goes on to say no substitutes may enter the field of play or end zones for purposes other than replacing a player or to fill a player vacancy. This includes demonstrations after any play. Rule 925 deals with sideline interference. While the ball is alive and during the continuing action after the ball has been declared dead, A, coaches, substitutes, and authorized attendants in the team area must be behind the coaching line. B, physical interference with an official is a foul charged to the team for unsportsmanlike conduct. In the MOFO, we go to 356, dealing with unsportsmanlike conduct on the sideline interference. And first, in A, would deal with the ball being dead. While the ball is dead, 1. Provided participants in the team area respond reasonably promptly to requests to get back from the sideline, there is no need to warn or penalize them, no matter how many times it happens. 2. Give a sideline interference foul only if a head coach repeatedly, and that means more than once, ignores requests made while the ball is dead to keep his team back from the sideline while the ball is alive or in continuing action after it is dead. B goes on to deal with while the ball is in play. 1. Coaches, substitutes, and other non-players on the field should always be flagged for sideline interference. An exception is not to be too bothered if the ball is near Team B's goal line and the personnel are still near their team area. 2. If they are between the sideline and the coaching box line, use your discretion and issue a verbal warning if they did not actually cause any problem. And finally, 3. Any contact between an official and a team member on the field or between the sideline and the coaching box line should be called as a team unsportsmanlike act, even for a first offense. This also applies if there is no physical contact, but the official is forced to change direction either to avoid contact or to maintain their view of what they're observing. So that was the theory, that was the book. Now let's have a look at some real live examples in the game film. In these first couple of examples, we'll have a look at timeouts called by coaches. And in this first example, we're looking at this coach on the opposite sideline here, close to the 30-yard line, who's going to call a timeout right after this play. And this is really the good way to call a timeout. He stays on the sideline, he calls a timeout, he gets it, and then he moves on to the field nice and easy. And typically we say coaches need to stay off the field, but during timeouts he is welcome to go to the numbers, which is what this coach does, between the 25-yard lines. Now compare that to this coach closest to the sideline. We've got two coaches here who move on too far, and here they're told to move back to the 9-yard marks. So stay there between the 25 and inside the 9-yard marks is where the coaches can go during timeouts. In the second example, we're looking at the head coach at the bottom of the screen with the white cap. and he's going to go onto the field to call timeout. Now, we really don't like it when coaches do that. Here, there are several aspects to this. One is that we need to tell the coach after this that he needs to go to the line of scrimmage official, and he's welcome to leave the team area or the coaching box to do that. And that's a much better way to do it, because if the ball is snapped here, then we potentially run into trouble with the coach on the field. Now, if the ball is snapped here and it's a running play up the middle for no gain, then we can probably leave it alone, or leave it with a talk to the coach. But let's say the ball is snapped over the quarterback's head and it starts to scramble out, and the coach gets involved in the action. Now we have a completely different situation that we have to handle. So that's one part of it. The other part is that we need, as officials, to be aware of the time and the situation in the game, and the fact that there is a chance that this coach will call a timeout. And the field judge in this case does a really good job of recognizing the coach with this timeout and shutting everything down. So, if we're late in a half and Team A has timeouts left, we have to be cognizant of them wanting potentially to call a timeout. And the same if let's say Team B is lining up with 10 players, the deep officials have to be aware that they have 10 players, and that there's a high probability that if the Team B coach recognizes this or realizes this, that he's going to call a timeout. So we have to be alert to this, so that we shut it down, and then tell the coach to really go to his line of scrimmage official on the sideline instead of coming onto the field like this. We're now moving on to coaches reacting to what happens on the play. And in this first example, the coach is just really excited that his team made the interception. So this coming onto the field, big body language, but we're okay with this. We certainly could have a talk to and let him know that he can't come onto the field, but this is not something we want to flag. He's just excited for his players, and he doesn't get in anybody's way. We can still work the play, but certainly have a talk to and let him know that he needs to stay off the field. Now we're moving to a different category. We're looking at the red cap here at the bottom. Instead of being happy with his team, now the coach is upset with his team. But again, I think this reaction, even though he gets onto the field marginally, we're still okay with this reaction. As long as he doesn't get onto the field any further than this, and we're okay with it. And certainly we can have a talk to once the coach settles down, to let him know that we can't have him coming onto the field. But again, this is we're okay with this reaction. In this example, the coach here at the bottom of the screen after the play calls a timeout, which is fine, and then for some reason the game clock on the stadium clock keeps running for a few seconds, and the coach goes pretty much ballistic on this, and this is now he's really getting close to where this is too much that we can ignore or deal with a talk to. I mean, if this is the first instance of this coach, we can tell the coach, yes, we got it, we'll control it, stay off the field. But if this is a tense game, if the temperature of this game is high or is hot, I can certainly see us calling this as an unsportsmanlike conduct, because this body language and the way he shows us up is just is very big and very loud. So now we're really getting to the point where it could very well depend on the feeling of the game or the temperature of the game, whether this is an unsportsmanlike conduct or not. Before we get back to the coach being upset with this or that, here's an example of a coach sending in a play going on to the field, and typically we say that they can come on to about there. As long as they're still on the hash marks, we're fine. But this really needs to be addressed. The coach has no business being on the field, and I mean, we don't really want to flag this. So whatever we can do to talk to the coach, and as long as he listens, we're fine. So work with the coaches, but try to avoid this or deal with this, because they see this on the other sideline, and if we're not consistent, if we're not doing the same thing on both sidelines, then that looks bad. So this is just simply too much, and let's make sure that the wings and the deep wings talk to the coach and make sure that he doesn't get this far onto the field. So now we've established that we really don't like the coaches being on the field, and we want to talk to them rather than flagging them. Here's a coach that comes onto the field. Now it helps him that he doesn't have big angry body language. That gives him a little bit of leeway, but we certainly don't want him all the way into the field like this. But this is a really good way to deal with the coach. Just get to him and walk him off the field. Let him say his piece, but also make sure that he knows that it's unacceptable for him to be on the field. But this is a really good way to avoid throwing a flag if we can. Again, if this is a contested game, we may need to, but this is a good way to avoid it and deal with the coach. But remember again to make sure that there's a warning in there somewhere that he needs to stay off the field. Now we're getting into a number of plays where the coaching staff shows disapproval with the call on the field or the officials on the field. Here at the bottom of the screen, the coaches are visibly upset, but I'm okay with this. I mean, there may be one step onto the field. They don't interfere with the officials during the play, and they stay on the sideline. So I'm really okay with what these coaches are doing. This is certainly within the limits of what we can accept. Now we're getting into a situation where we really have no choice. The coach is visibly upset. He's yelling, he's got big body language, and he's all the way down to the 13 yard line. So he's 10 yards out of his coaching box, visibly upset with the officials and the call, and this is too much and correctly called by this line judge. Now the way he throws his flag may be a little too big, a little too I'm gonna get you, but certainly a correct call. Here's another situation where the coach should have had a flag on unsportsmanlike conduct. So here he goes onto the field, huge body language, he's yelling, and he's all the way to the numbers, and this is just too much of yelling at us and at the call, and here we get a good job by the field judge to come up and talk to him, but instead of escorting him back to the sideline, we just stop here and start talking to him. So now we still have the coach on the field, and it looks bad from the other sideline, it looks bad from the video. So we should have had a flag here on him, and we should have had an escort off the field. On this play, the coach is going to believe that this is a forward pass and therefore incomplete, even though the officials let it run. And the coach here at the bottom of the screen, he's going to be very, very unhappy with it. But the point here is, it doesn't really matter if he's right or wrong. This is just too much coming onto the field, too big body language, too much yelling and screaming, and this needs to be called, should be called as an unsportsmanlike conduct, whether he's right or wrong. Here's another example of a coach who's probably right. I mean, this certainly looks like an offside. It's 4th and short, so the offense goes with a hard count. It certainly looks like, even though this is a bad angle, it looks like the offense or the defense jumped, and here the coach is at the bottom of the screen. He's happy because he knows he's got a new first down. Only problem is it wasn't called on the field. But that does not excuse the coach's reaction here on the sideline, coming onto the field, big body language, yelling at the officials right there. So even though he's probably right, even though we didn't call what we should have called, this is too much, and this should be an unsportsmanlike conduct on the coach. In these last two plays, we're looking at the deep wings and sideline interference. And we're looking at the guy here at the bottom of the screen. And at no point does he look back to make sure that his sideline is clear. And if you look, there are about 4 reasons there to look back and make sure that your sideline is clear, at least 3 of them. And here he comes, and sure enough, we make contact. Now this is slight contact, but I mean, one of the guys is even further on, closer to the field than we are. So this is clearly, and you do make contact with number 17 there. So this is clearly an unsportsmanlike conduct. But again, we could probably avoid this by just looking back and getting them out of the way before the ball is even snapped. And if it's an issue, then talk to the coach and make sure that we don't have something like that happen. Because we don't want this to happen, but we can also avoid it from happening. In this last play, we're focused on the deep wing at the bottom of the screen, and it certainly looks like a sideline interference. I mean, there's clear contact with the coach there, and here comes the flag. However, there you go. If you look at where he is, he's actually now in the coach's box, and the contact happened with the coach in the coach's box, and we can't really fault the coach for being in the coach's box. So I'm thinking that maybe the reason that we end up in the coaching box is that the receiver gets too close, we lose part of our cushion, and that forces us to get pushed away from the field instead of downfield where we really want to be. So if instead of being in the coach's box, we should probably be 5 yards deeper and in the white, so to speak, and closer to the sideline. So this is really an incorrect call for the unsportsmanlike conduct on the coach, and the reason I suspect is because of our mechanics, our movement, that we get too close. And that was the training tape. I hope it made sense, and I hope you found something we can use on the field.